My name is Rose, I am 17 years old and I live in a large estate in Seattle. My mother didn't just lock the door. She stood at the large front window, safely behind the glass, and watched me shiver. It was a Tuesday night in Seattle. The news called it an atmospheric river, but to me, it just felt like freezing needles hitting my skin. I was wearing nothing but a thin cotton hoodie and pajama pants. The rain was so heavy I could barely keep my eyes open. 10 minutes ago, I was sitting on my bed, studying for a chemistry test. Now, I was locked outside our electronic gate, clutching my arms to my chest to keep my teeth from chattering. Why? Because my sister, Tiffany, told a lie. She told my mother I stole $12,000. She didn't have proof. She didn't need it. My mother didn't ask me for my side of the story. She just slapped me across the face, dragged me down the hallway by my arm, and threw me into the storm. "Stay out there until you admit what you did," she screamed. She expected me to pound on the glass. She expected me to beg for forgiveness for something I didn't do. But as the freezing water soaked through my clothes, I made a choice. I wasn't going to knock. I wasn't going to cry. I was done being the victim. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Rose. I am 17 years old. To understand why I stood in the rain that night without knocking, you have to understand the life I lived before the storm. You have to understand that the cold outside wasn't new to me. I had been feeling a different kind of cold inside my own house for 17 years. I wasn't the daughter my mother wanted. That was Tiffany. Tiffany was the golden child. In my mother's eyes, Tiffany was the sun, and the rest of us were just planets orbiting around her to keep her warm. Tiffany was 2 years older than me. She was loud, demanding, and beautiful in a way that required constant attention. If Tiffany smiled, the whole house had to celebrate. If Tiffany frowned, someone had to be punished. And that someone was usually me. I was the scapegoat. I was the convenience target. I was the person my family used to dump their anger, their stress, and their mistakes on. It didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly, day by day, until it became the only reality I knew. I remember when I was 10 years old. It was my birthday. My father was away on business, as usual. My mother had ordered a chocolate cake. I was so excited. I sat at the table, wearing my favorite blue dress, waiting to blow out the candles. Tiffany, who was 12 then, walked into the kitchen. She looked at the cake. She looked at me. "I wanted vanilla," she said. She didn't say happy birthday. She just crossed her arms and glared at the cake. "It's Rose's birthday, honey," my mother said softly. "She likes chocolate," Tiffany groaned. "But I hate chocolate. You know I hate chocolate. You got this just to make me sick." She started to cry. It was a fake cry, loud and dry, but it worked. It always worked. My mother's face changed. She looked at me like I had done something wrong. She looked at my birthday cake like it was a mistake. "Rose," my mother said, her voice tight, "why do you have to be so difficult? You know your sister has a sensitive stomach." "But Mom," I said, my voice small, "you asked me what I wanted." "Stop being selfish," my mother snapped. She took the cake away. She actually took my birthday cake off the table before I could blow out the candles. "We are going to get ice cream instead. Vanilla ice cream, for Tiffany." I spent my 10th birthday watching my sister eat a giant bowl of vanilla ice cream while I sat with nothing, feeling a lump in my throat so big I couldn't swallow. I learned a lesson that day. My happiness was less important than Tiffany's mild annoyance. This dynamic got worse as we got older. There was the incident with the crystal vase. I was 12. Tiffany was 14. I was sitting at the kitchen island, doing my math homework. I was a straight-A student. I had to be. Getting good grades was the only way I could get any positive attention, or at least avoid negative attention. Tiffany walked in. She was bored. She picked up a heavy crystal vase that sat on the hallway table. It was an antique, something my mother loved more than she loved most people. Tiffany started spinning it on her finger like a basketball. "Put that down, Tiff," I said without looking up from my workbook. "You're going to drop it." "Shut up, Rose, you're so boring," she laughed. "You act like such a mom." She spun it harder. She wanted me to look. She wanted a reaction. Then it slipped. The crash was loud. It sounded like an explosion. Thousands of sharp glass pieces flew across the tile floor. Tiffany froze. Her face went pale. She knew this was big. This wasn't just a spilled drink. This was Mom's favorite object. We heard the rapid clicking of heels coming down the stairs. My mother rushed into the room, her eyes wide. "What happened?" she screamed. "My vase," I opened my mouth to speak, but Tiffany was faster. She pointed a shaking finger right at me. "Rose did it," Tiffany yelled. "I told her not to touch it. I told her it was heavy, but she tried to grab it from me because she was jealous that I was holding it. It was such a stupid lie. I was sitting 5 feet away. My pencil was still in my hand. I didn't." I stood up, my chair scraping the floor. "Mom, I was doing homework. Tiffany was spinning it." My mother didn't look at the distance between me and the glass. She didn't look at my open math book. She looked at Tiffany, who was now squeezing out big, fake tears. "Rose," my mother said. Her voice went low and cold. It was a tone I feared more than shouting. "Why do you always have to destroy beautiful things?" "I didn't touch it," I pleaded. "Mom, please believe me." "Stop lying," my mother shouted. She walked over to me and grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. "You are clumsy, and you are spiteful. You are jealous of your sister, so you break things. Go to your room." "But Mom," Gio, I spent the next 3 weekends scrubbing the floors as punishment. I had to pay for the vase out of my allowance for 2 years. Every time I handed my mother the money, she would sigh and say, "I hope this teaches you responsibility, Rose." It didn't teach me responsibility. It taught me that the truth didn't matter. It taught me that in this house, facts were flexible. If Tiffany said the sky was green, my mother would paint the windows green just to prove her right. My mother normalized the cruelty. She made me feel like I was crazy. She would say things like, "We are harder on you, Rose, because you need it. Tiffany is fragile. You are tough like a weed." A weed, that's what I was to her, something that grew where it wasn't wanted. Something that had to be cut back. Tiffany, on the other hand, weaponized her innocence. She knew exactly how to manipulate the system. If she lost her phone charger, she would go into my room and take mine. When I asked for it back, she would scream, "Mom, Rose is harassing me." My mother would come in and say, "Rose, let your sister use the charger. Why are you so possessive?" If Tiffany failed a test, it was my fault because I distracted her by studying too loudly. If Tiffany got a speeding ticket, it was my fault because I stressed her out before she left the house. I learned to survive by becoming a ghost. I stopped arguing. I stopped defending myself. I realized that saying, "I didn't do it," just made the punishment worse. So I started saying, "I'm sorry." I apologized for things I didn't do. I apologized for taking up space. I apologized for breathing too loud. I spent my teenage years in my bedroom. I studied until my eyes hurt. I read books about people who ran away, people who started new lives. I planned my future. I knew my only way out was college. I needed a scholarship. I needed to get far away from Seattle, far away from the golden child and the mother who worshipped her. I thought I could wait it out. I thought if I just kept my head down, stayed quiet, and got my grades, I could escape without any more damage. I was wrong. I didn't know that Tiffany and my mother weren't done with me yet. I didn't know that being a ghost wouldn't save me. Because when you are the scapegoat, you are necessary. They need you. They need someone to blame for their own failures. And if there isn't a problem to blame you for, they will create one. That is what happened on the night of the storm. The Tuesday of the storm began like any other day in our house, tense and quiet. My father was in Chicago for a conference. Whenever Dad was gone, the atmosphere in the house shifted. It became sharper, more dangerous. My father was the only buffer I had. He wasn't perfect. He worked too much and often didn't see what was really happening, but he didn't hate me. When he was home, my mother controlled her temper. When he was gone, the gloves came off. The storm started in the afternoon. It was an atmospheric river, a term the news kept using. Dark, heavy clouds rolled in off the Pacific Ocean. By 6 p.m., the rain was hammering against the roof like rocks. The wind was howling around the eaves of our large estate. I was in my room, safe, or so I thought. I was sitting at my desk, highlighting notes for AP Chemistry. I had a test the next day. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, trying to block out the sound of the thunder. I didn't hear Tiffany come in. I only noticed her when the light in my room flickered. I took off my headphones and turned around. Tiffany was standing in my doorway. She wasn't wearing her usual loungewear. She was dressed in her expensive jeans and a silk top, holding her iPad. She looked strange. Her eyes were bright, too bright. She looked excited. "Mom wants you downstairs," she said. "I'm studying TIFF, can it wait?" "No," she said. A small smile played on her lips. "It definitely can't wait." She turned and walked away. My stomach dropped. I knew that feeling. It was the same feeling I had before the vase incident. It was the premonition of disaster. I stood up, closed my chemistry book, and walked downstairs. The house felt cold. The storm outside was making the windows rattle. My mother was in the living room. She was standing by the fireplace, her arms crossed. She wasn't looking at the TV. She was looking at the door, waiting for me. Tiffany was sitting on the sofa, clutching her iPad to her chest. She had forced tears into her eyes now. Her face was red and blotchy, a perfect performance. "Sit down, Rose," my mother said. Her voice was ice. "I'll stand," I said. "What's going on?" "Tiffany has discovered something disturbing," my mother said. "Show her, Tiffany." Tiffany sniffed loudly. She turned the iPad around so I could see the screen. It was her banking app. "My car money," Tiffany sobbed. "The money Dad deposited for my lease payments and my insurance for the whole year, it's gone." I squinted at the screen. I saw a transfer of $12,500. It had been sent to an account named Lux Life Resale. "Okay," I said, confused. "You spent it, or were you hacked?" "I didn't spend it," Tiffany screamed. She jumped up. "I was saving that money. Someone stole it." "Then call the bank," I said calmly. "Report the fraud." "We don't need to call the bank to know who did it," my mother interrupted. She took a step toward me. The look on her face was pure disgust. "Tiffany showed me the transaction log," my mother said. "The transfer was authorized on the banking app. It requires Face ID," I shrugged. "So, someone hacked your face, or you did it and forgot." "My face," Tiffany said, her voice dripping with venom. "And the alternate Face ID." She tapped the screen. "Look," she held up the settings menu. There, under Face ID and passcode, it showed two faces set up. "I only have my face on there," Tiffany said. "But look at the date the second face was added. Last week. The day I let you borrow my phone to call Dad because yours was dead." I froze. "What? I didn't add my face to your phone. I just made a phone call." "You added your face so you could access my apps later," Tiffany yelled. "You waited until tonight, when Dad was gone, and you transferred the money. You stole $12,000 from me." "That is insane," I shouted. I looked at my mother. "Mom, you can't believe this. Why would I steal her money? Where would I put it?" "Check my bank account. I have $300 from babysitting." "That's it? You sent it to a resale site," my mother said. "Probably to buy designer bags or credit for yourself. You've always been jealous of Tiffany's things." "I don't care about her things." I felt tears pricking my eyes, not from sadness but from frustration. "I don't care about bags, I care about my grades, I care about college. Why would I risk everything for this?" "Because you're spiteful," my mother said. She walked closer to me. "You're a thief, Rose. A liar and a thief." "I am not. Don't raise your voice at me." My mother's hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. Slap. The sound cracked through the living room, louder than the thunder outside. My head snapped to the right. The pain was instant and sharp. My cheek felt like it was on fire. I stumbled back, holding my face. I looked at my mother. She didn't look sorry. She looked empowered. She looked like she had been wanting to do that for a long time. "You are a burden," she spat the words out. "You have always been a burden. We give you a home, food, clothes, and this is how you repay us, by stealing from your sister." "I didn't do it," I whispered. My voice was shaking. "I don't want to hear your lies anymore," my mother said. She grabbed my arm. Her grip was incredibly strong. "Mom, what are you doing?" She dragged me toward the front door. "You need to learn a lesson. A real lesson." "Mom, it's a storm." I tried to pull back, but she yanked me harder. "It's freezing outside. I'm only wearing a hoodie." "You should have thought of that before you became a criminal," she said. Tiffany was watching from the couch. She wasn't crying anymore. She was watching with a look of pure satisfaction. She gave me a tiny wave. My mother unlocked the heavy front door. The wind roared into the hallway, spraying rain onto the expensive hardwood floors. "Get out," she screamed. "No, Mom, please." She shoved me. She used both hands and pushed me with all her strength. I flew backward. I slipped on the wet porch tiles and fell hard onto the concrete steps. The rain hit me instantly, cold, heavy, and shocking. I scrambled to stand up, turning back to the door. "Mom," I screamed. My mother stood in the doorway, dry and warm. "Don't come back in until you are ready to confess," she said. "And if you break anything out here, I'll call the police." She slammed the door. I heard the heavy thud of the deadbolt sliding into place, then the electronic beep-beep of the security alarm engaging. I stood there, stunned. The rain soaked my hair in seconds. My thin pajama pants stuck to my legs. The wind cut through my hoodie like it wasn't even there. I was locked out. I walked up to the glass panel beside the door. I could see into the living room. My mother was walking back to the couch. She picked up her wine glass. She took a sip. She said something to Tiffany, and Tiffany laughed. They weren't worried. They weren't checking the window. They were celebrating. I stood in the storm, shivering, and for the first time in my life, I realized the truth. This wasn't a punishment. This was an eviction. They had thrown me away like trash. And as the cold water ran down my back, I knew one thing. I was never going to let them do this to me again. The cold hit me instantly. It wasn't just cold, it was a physical shock. The water was freezing, barely above snow temperature. Within seconds, my thin hoodie was soaked through. My pajama pants clung to my legs. I stood up, shivering violently. The wind was so strong it almost knocked me over again. My first instinct was to pound on the door, to scream, to beg, "Please, Mom, let me in. I'll say whatever you want. I'll say I stole it. Just let me in." I raised my fist to knock. Then I looked through the window. The living room was warm and golden. My mother was standing by the curtains. She wasn't pacing. She wasn't crying. She was just standing there watching me. She had a glass of wine in her hand. She looked satisfied. She was waiting for me to break. She wanted to see me on my knees in the mud. She wanted me to crawl. She wanted to prove that she had total power over me, that my life only existed because she allowed it. I looked at Tiffany. She was back on her phone, typing rapidly, smiling. She wasn't upset about the lost money. She was happy. Something inside me snapped. But it didn't break, it hardened. It was a sudden clarity. Like the cold rain washed away the fog I had been living in for 17 years. They don't love me, I realized. They don't even like me. If I knocked on that door, if I begged, I was accepting that I was the criminal. I was accepting their version of reality. I lowered my fist. I stepped back from the porch, out into the driving rain. I let the water hit my face. I stopped trying to shield myself. I reached into the pocket of my hoodie. My hand was shaking so bad I almost dropped it, but I felt the cold metal of my phone. Thank God I had it. I didn't call the police yet. I didn't call a friend. I lifted the phone and pointed the camera at the window. I recorded my mother sipping her wine while watching her teenage daughter freeze in a storm. I recorded Tiffany laughing at the TV. I recorded the locked gate. I turned the camera on myself, showing my soaked clothes, the red mark on my face from the slap, the darkness of the storm. "My name is Rose," I said into the camera. The wind howled, so I had to speak loudly. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, calm, steady. "It is 8:15 p.m. My mother, Patricia, and my sister, Tiffany, have locked me out of the house because Tiffany accused me of stealing money. I have no coat. I have no keys. This is what they do." I saved the video. I walked over to the side of the house, where the wind was slightly blocked by a large oak tree. I crouched down, hugging my knees to preserve heat. My teeth were chattering so hard my jaw ached. I wasn't crying anymore. I was done crying, I was waiting. 20 minutes passed. It felt like 20 years. My fingers were numb. I couldn't feel my toes. I started to feel sleepy, which I knew was a bad sign. That was hypothermia starting. Then I saw lights. Twin beams of bright LED headlights cut through the darkness of the driveway. It was a large black SUV. My father. He wasn't supposed to be home until Friday. He must have come back early because of the storm warning, or maybe he just knew. The car pulled up to the main electronic gate at the bottom of the driveway. The gate was locked. Usually, he would punch in the code or use his remote. But through the rain, he must have seen something. The porch light was on. He could see the figure huddled under the tree. He could see me. He didn't wait for the gate to open. I heard the engine roar. He didn't use the code. He swerved the massive SUV off the driveway, driving straight onto the manicured front lawn. Mud flew everywhere. He drove right through my mother's prize-winning rose bushes, crushing the wooden trellis. He didn't care. He drove the car right up to the front porch, tires tearing up the grass, and slammed on the brakes. The driver's door flew open. My dad jumped out. He wasn't wearing a raincoat. He was in his business suit. He ran toward me. "Rose," he screamed. It was a sound of pure panic. He reached me and scooped me up off the wet ground. His hands were warm. "Oh my God, Rose, you're freezing." "Dad," I whispered. My voice was gone. He ripped off his suit jacket and wrapped it around me. He pulled me against his chest. He was shaking, but not from the cold. He was shaking with rage. "Who did this?" he asked, though he already knew. "How long have you been out here?" "Since the fight," I said. "Mom locked the door." He looked at the front door. Through the window, I saw my mother's face. She looked terrified. She had seen the car drive through the garden. She was unlocking the door now, trying to open it. David, she called out, opening the door. She put on a fake smile, acting confused. David, what are you doing? Why did you drive on the lawn? My father didn't answer her. He kept his arm around me, holding me up because my legs were too weak to walk properly. He guided me up the steps. David, she was having a tantrum, my mother said, stepping back as we approached. She stole money, David. I had to punish her. My father walked past her like she didn't exist. He kicked the door shut behind us with a slam that shook the walls. The warmth of the house hit me, and I started shivering violently as my body tried to warm up. Get towels, my father barked at my mother. But David, get towels, he roared. It was so loud that Tiffany jumped off the couch. I had never heard my father yell like that. He was a quiet man, a gentle man. But looking at his face now, I saw something new. He wasn't just my dad anymore. He was a witness. He walked me to the fireplace and sat me down on the hearth. He rubbed my arms. I've got you, Rose, I've got you. It's over. He stood up and turned to face them. My mother was holding a towel, looking pale. Tiffany was clutching her iPad to her chest, looking like a deer in headlights. You locked her outside, my father said. His voice was dangerously quiet now. In a storm, in freezing temperatures. She stole $12,000, Tiffany blurted out. She used my phone. My father looked at Tiffany. Then he looked at the iPad in her arms. Give me the iPad, he said. What? No, it's my personal. Give me the iPad. Tiffany hesitated. My father stepped forward and snatched it from her hands. He didn't look at the screen. He walked over to the wall and tapped the control panel for the 80-inch television. He hit screen mirroring. David, stop this, my mother pleaded. You're scaring the girls. You scared one girl tonight, Patricia, he said. And you nearly killed her. He connected the iPad to the TV. The screen lit up for everyone to see. Now, he said, let's see the truth. The living room felt like a courtroom. The only sound was the rain hammering against the dark windows and the soft hum of the massive 80-inch television as it connected to the iPad. I sat on the hearth, wrapped in the wool blankets. My shivering had stopped, replaced by a dull ache in my bones, but my mind was sharp. I watched my father. I had never seen him like this. He was usually the peacemaker, the one who tried to smooth things over. But tonight, he wasn't smoothing anything. He was tearing it all down. My mother, Patricia, stood near the kitchen island. Her face was pale. She was wringing her hands, a nervous habit she only showed when she lost control of a situation. Tiffany stood next to her, looking small and terrified. She kept glancing at the front door, as if she wanted to run into the rain herself. David, please, my mother said again, her voice tight. You're overreacting. It was a misunderstanding. Rose was being difficult, and Tiffany was upset about the money. Quiet, my father said. He didn't shout it. He just said it with such finality that my mother's mouth snapped shut. The TV screen flickered from black to the home screen of Tiffany's iPad. We saw her background photo, a selfie of her and Mom at a spa day, both smiling, wearing matching robes. I wasn't in the picture. I was never in the pictures. My father tapped the banking app icon. Because the iPad was already unlocked by Tiffany's face before he took it, the app opened right up. Okay, my father said, narrating what he was doing. Here is the transaction log. He tapped the transfer of $12,500. Sent to Lux Life Resale, he read aloud. Authorized today at 4:30 p.m. He tapped on the transaction details. Device ID. iPhone 14 Pro Max Tiffany's iPhone, he read. Location 1422 Highland Drive, this house. See, Tiffany squeaked. I told you, Rose used my phone. She did it while I was in the bathroom. My father didn't look at her. He just swiped up and opened the Safari browser. If someone stole money to buy something, my father said, they usually leave a digital trail. Let's look at the history. He tapped the book icon. He tapped history. It was empty. Cleared, my father said. Smart, but not smart enough. He opened the email app. He went to the sent folder. It was also empty. He went to the trash folder, also empty. She deleted everything, Tiffany yelled. Rose is obsessed with computers. She knows how to hide her tracks. My father paused. He looked at Tiffany. You're right, Tiff. Rose is good with computers. But you aren't. He closed the email app and opened the Messages app. Rose didn't have your passcode for your texts, did she? He asked. No, Tiffany said quickly. Of course not. And Rose didn't have her own phone, right? Because she was grounded from electronics last week. Right, my mother added, trying to help. Rose hasn't had access to a phone. So, my father said, his voice deadly calm. If there are texts sent from this device from your account during the time Rose was studying, that would be interesting. He scrolled down to a group chat named the A-List. It was a chat with Tiffany's three best friends, Jessica, Courtney, and Brittany. He tapped it. The conversation appeared on the giant TV screen in high definition. The timestamp for the last message was 6:45 p.m., just before the storm got bad. Just before I was dragged outside. My father began to read the text aloud. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion, which made it sound even more terrifying. Tiffany, OMG guys, I did it. The plan worked perfectly. Jessica. No way did she buy it? Tiffany. She totally bought it. I transferred the cash to my secret account and blamed it on the freak. Mom is losing her mind right now. She's screaming at Rose in the kitchen. Courtney, you are a genius. Did you get the bag? Tiffany. Yes, Chanel classic flap, black caviar leather. It's being delivered to your house, Courtney. Do not let your mom see it. Courtney, got it. I'll hide it in my closet until you can pick it up. Tiffany. It's hilarious. Mom just slapped her. I think she's going to kick her out. Bye-bye, Rose. Enjoy the rain, loser. My father stopped reading. The silence in the room was heavy. It felt like the air had been sucked out. I stared at the screen. I saw the words bye-bye, Rose. I saw the laughing emojis Tiffany had used. She had planned it. She had stolen the money to buy a handbag, a stupid purse, and she had framed me for it. But it wasn't just about the money. The texts proved that she enjoyed it. She enjoyed watching me get slapped. She enjoyed watching me get thrown into the storm. It was entertainment for her. I looked at my mother. Patricia was staring at the TV screen. Her mouth was slightly open. Her face had gone from pale to a sickly shade of gray. She read the words, Mom is losing her mind right now. She totally bought it. Patricia, my father said. He turned to look at her. Did you read that? My mother couldn't speak. She blinked rapidly. She looked at Tiffany. Tiffany, my mother whispered. You said Rose did it. Tiffany was shaking. Tears were streaming down her face now, but they were real tears of fear this time. It was just a joke, Tiffany screamed. I was just joking with my friends. I didn't mean it. You transferred $12,000, my father said. You bought a Chanel bag. And you let your mother beat your sister and throw her into a storm. I didn't think Mom would actually lock her out. Tiffany sobbed. I just wanted Rose to get in trouble. She's always so perfect. She thinks she's so smart. So you almost killed her, my father said. David, stop saying that, my mother snapped. She was trying to regain control. She walked over to Tiffany and put a hand on her shoulder. She didn't kill anyone. It was a prank that went too far. Tiffany is just a child. She made a mistake. A mistake, my father laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. A mistake is spilling milk, Patricia. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. This was calculated. This was malicious. And you, he pointed a finger at my mother. You fell for it. You were so eager to believe the worst about Rose that you didn't even check. You didn't look at the phone. You didn't ask a single question. You just hit her. I was stressed, my mother defended herself. You know how hard I work to keep this house running. I was upset about the money. You locked her outside, my father repeated. You watched her freezing through the window and you drank wine. I was teaching her a lesson. You were torturing her, my father said. He turned back to the screen. But we aren't done, he said. Because when I was looking for the email receipt for the bag, I saw something else in the recently deleted folder. He tapped the mail icon again. He opened the folder marked trash. He scrolled past the order confirmation for Lux Life resale. He scrolled past the shipping notification for the Chanel bag. He stopped at an email dated yesterday. What is this? My father asked. The subject line read, Urgent, Scholarship Acceptance, Rose Miller. My heart stopped. I sat up straight on the hearth, ignoring the pain in my cold limbs. Scholarship, I whispered. I had applied for the National STEM Initiative Summer Program. It was a full-ride scholarship to a pre-med program at Stanford. It was my dream. It was my ticket out of this house. I had been checking my email every day for weeks, but I never saw a response. I thought I had been rejected. My father tapped the email. It opened on the screen. Dear Rose, we are thrilled to inform you that you have been accepted into the National STEM Initiative with a full merit scholarship. I got in, I breathed. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. I actually got in. Yes, you did, my father said softly, but you never saw this email, did you? No, I said. I checked my inbox every day. It wasn't there. Because someone deleted it, my father said. He swiped to the next email in the trash folder. It was a sent email. It was sent from my email account, but I hadn't written it. To National STEM Initiative from Rose Miller. Subject: Ray, scholarship acceptance. Thank you for the offer. However, I have decided to decline the scholarship. I will not be attending. Please remove me from your list. I have other plans for my summer. My father read the email aloud. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I gasped for air. No, I cried out. No, I didn't send that. That's my dream. Why would I decline it? My father looked at Tiffany. Tiffany wasn't crying anymore. She was looking at the floor, biting her lip. You knew Rose's password, my father said to Tiffany. Because you used her laptop last week when yours was updating. She leaves it logged in, Tiffany shouted. It's her fault for not having better security. You declined her scholarship, my father said. His voice broke. He sounded like he was in physical pain. You tried to erase her future. She thinks she's better than me, Tiffany screamed. She stomped her foot. She's always talking about Stanford. She's always talking about becoming a doctor. She thinks she's so special just because she's smart. I didn't want her to go. If she goes to Stanford, everyone will talk about her. What about me? So you sabotaged her, my father said. I just wanted her to stay here, Tiffany yelled. I wanted her to stay here and be miserable like the rest of us. My mother stood there silent. She looked at the email on the screen. She looked at the scholarship offer. I didn't know, my mother whispered. I didn't know about the scholarship. Would it have mattered? My father asked her. If you knew she had a full ride to Stanford, would you have been happy for her? Or would you have been jealous that your golden child is failing algebra while Rose is getting into Ivy League programs? My mother didn't answer. Her silence was the answer. My father turned off the TV. The screen went black, but the truth was still hanging in the room, bright and burning. He walked over to me. He sat down on the hearth next to me and put his arm around my shoulders. He squeezed me tight. I will fix this, he told me. I will call the program director personally. I will explain everything. You are going to that program, Rose, I promise you. I leaned my head on his wet shoulder. Thank you, Dad. He stood up again. He looked at his watch. Now, he said, it's time to deal with the rest of this. He pulled his phone out of his pocket. He dialed 3 numbers, 9-1-1. David, my mother screamed. What are you doing? I'm reporting a crime, he said calmly. You can't call the police on your own family. Watch me, he said. He put the phone to his ear. Yes, this is David Miller at 1422 Highland Drive. I need a sheriff immediately. I have a domestic situation. Yes, assault and grand larceny. He looked my mother dead in the eye as he spoke. And child endangerment. The wait for the sheriff was agonizing, but it was also the first time in my life I felt truly vindicated. My mother tried to argue. She tried to cry. She tried to bargain. David, hang up the phone, she had pleaded. We can handle this internally. We can send Tiffany to counseling. I'll apologize to Rose. Look, I'm sorry, Rose. I'm sorry I locked you out. I sat wrapped in my blankets, drinking a glass of water my father had fetched for me. I looked at my mother. Her apology felt like wet paper, flimsy and useless. You're only sorry because you got caught, I said quietly. That's not true, she insisted. I love you, Rose. No, you don't, I said. It wasn't an accusation, it was just a fact. You love Tiffany, you tolerate me, and tonight you didn't even tolerate me, you wanted to hurt me. I was teaching you. Stop, my father said. He was standing by the window, watching for the police lights. Don't say another word to her, Patricia, you've said enough. Tiffany was sitting on the stairs, sobbing into her hands. But even now, her sobs sounded selfish. She wasn't crying because she hurt me. She was crying because she was scared of what was going to happen to her. She was mourning her reputation, not our relationship. When the blue and red lights finally flashed through the front window, cutting through the rain, the reality of the situation settled over the house. My father opened the door. Sheriff Miller, no relation to us, walked in. He was a big man, wearing a wet raincoat and a wide-brimmed hat. He shook off the rain and looked around the room. David, the sheriff nodded. They knew each other from the Rotary Club. What's going on? Dispatch said assault. Yes, my father said. This is my daughter, Rose. He pointed to me. I was still looking rough, wet hair matting to my forehead, face pale, wrapped in blankets. She was locked outside in the storm for nearly an hour, my father said, by her mother and her sister. The sheriff looked at me, his eyes softened. Are you okay, miss? I'm cold, I said. But I'm okay. She was locked out, the sheriff repeated, looking at my mother. In this weather. It was a disciplinary measure, my mother said, stepping forward. She put on her lady of the manor voice. Sheriff, my daughter stole a large sum of money. I removed her from the house to protect the other occupants until she calmed down. That is a lie, my father said. We have evidence that the theft was fabricated by my other daughter, Tiffany, to frame Rose. And even if Rose had stolen money, throwing a minor out into a storm with no coat is not discipline. It's abuse. My father picked up the iPad. He showed the sheriff the screenshots he had taken of the group chat. He showed him the transaction logs. The sheriff read them. He frowned. He looked at Tiffany. "You're Tiffany?" he asked. Tiffany nodded, sniffling. "Did you send these texts?" I was joking," she whispered. "Falsely reporting a crime is not a joke," the sheriff said sternly. "Theft is not a joke." Then my father spoke up again. "There's something else, Sheriff. Something that isn't a crime in the penal code maybe, but it shows the intent." My father pulled up the screenshot of the deleted scholarship email. "Rose won a full scholarship to Stanford," my father said. His voice was thick with emotion. "Tiffany hacked into her account and declined it. She tried to ruin Rose's entire future just out of spite." The sheriff looked at the email. He looked at the rejection response sent from my account. He shook his head in disbelief. "That's cold," he muttered. "That is truly cold." He turned to my mother. "And you, ma'am. You participated in this." "I didn't know about the email," my mother cried. "I just thought she stole the money. I have a right to discipline my child in my own house." "Actually," my father interrupted. "You don't." My father walked over to the side table where the mail was kept. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick leather folder. I recognized it. It was the family trust document. "This house," my father said, holding up the folder, "is held in a trust. My parents built this estate. When they passed, they left it to me, and eventually to my children." He opened the document to a flagged page. "Patricia, you are a beneficiary of the trust by marriage," my father said. "But do you remember the safety and conduct clause my father insisted on?" My mother went white. She knew it. She had signed it 20 years ago, probably thinking it would never matter. "David, don't," she whispered. "Read it," my father said, handing the document to the sheriff. He pointed to paragraph 4, section B. The sheriff put on his reading glasses. "Any beneficiary," the sheriff read aloud, "who is found to have committed an act of physical violence, endangerment, or malicious harm against a lineal descendant of the grantor, that's the grandfather, shall immediately forfeit their right to reside on the property." The sheriff looked up. "It says here," the sheriff continued, "that the trustee, that's you, David, has the authority to remove the offending party immediately to ensure the safety of the lineal descendant." "Rose is the lineal descendant," my father said. "My father adored her. He wrote this clause to protect the kids. He didn't trust everyone who might marry into the family." My father looked at my mother. His eyes were sad, but they were firm. "You endangered her," my father said. "You locked her out in a storm. You slapped her. You chose to hurt my daughter." "She's my daughter too," my mother screamed. "You didn't act like it tonight," my father said. "You acted like an enemy." He turned to the sheriff. "Sheriff, I am formally invoking the safety clause. Patricia and Tiffany have violated the terms of the trust. They are no longer authorized to be in this house. They are trespassing." "David," my mother shrieked. "You can't be serious. You're kicking me out. I'm your wife." "You were a mother first," my father said, "or you were supposed to be and you failed." He looked at Tiffany. "And you," he said, "you are 18, Tiffany. You are an adult. You stole money. You committed fraud. And you tormented your sister. You are not welcome under this roof tonight." The room went dead silent. I watched from the hearth. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't joy. It wasn't happiness. It was relief. For 17 years, I had been the one leaving. I had been the one sent to my room. I had been the one walking on eggshells, trying not to get kicked out of the family. And now, the tables had turned. The sheriff looked at my father. "You want them removed, David, tonight." "Tonight," my father said. "I don't trust them with Rose. I don't trust them not to retaliate." The sheriff nodded. He turned to my mother. "Ma'am," he said, "you heard him. The homeowner has revoked your permission to stay. You need to pack a bag." "This is insane," my mother yelled. She looked around the room as if the walls themselves would defend her. "I have nowhere to go." "You have a credit card," my father said. "Go to a hotel, go to your sister's, I don't care, but you aren't staying here." "I'm not leaving," Tiffany shouted. She crossed her arms. "You can't make me." The sheriff stepped forward. He wasn't smiling anymore. He rested his hand on his belt. "Miss," he said, If you don't leave voluntarily, I will have to arrest you for trespassing. And considering the fraud evidence your father just showed me, I'd suggest you don't push your luck tonight." Tiffany's bravado crumpled. She looked at Mom. "Mom," she whined. My mother looked at my father. She was searching for any sign of weakness, any sign that he was bluffing. She looked for the husband who usually gave in to keep the peace. He wasn't there. The man standing before her was a father protecting his wounded child. He was a stone wall. 10 minutes, my father said. He looked at the grandfather clock in the hall. "You have 10 minutes to pack essentials and leave. If you aren't out the door by 9:30, the sheriff will escort you out." My mother let out a sound that was half sob, half scream. She spun around and ran up the stairs, her heels clicking frantically on the wood. Tiffany followed her, wailing loudly. My father sighed. He slumped a little, the energy draining out of him. He walked over to me and sat down again. He took my hand. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "Dad. Are you really kicking them out?" "I have to," he said. "I can't let them hurt you again. I won't." He looked at the deleted email on the iPad screen, which was still sitting on the coffee table. "They tried to take your future, Rose," he whispered. "I'm just giving it back to you." The next 10 minutes were the loudest and quietest of my life. Downstairs, where I sat by the fire, it was silent. My father stood like a statue by the front door, arms crossed, watching the staircase. The sheriff stood by the entryway, checking his watch every 30 seconds. I stayed wrapped in the blankets, just breathing. But upstairs, it sounded like a war zone. We could hear them running back and forth. We heard drawers being ripped open and slammed shut. We heard the heavy thud of suitcases being thrown onto the floor. "I can't believe this." Tiffany's voice shrieked through the ceiling. "I can't fit my shoes." "Just grab what you need," my mother yelled back. Her voice was shrill, panic rising in her throat. At the 9-minute mark, they appeared at the top of the stairs. It was a pathetic sight. Tiffany was dragging a massive pink suitcase that bumped loudly against every step. She had her duvet cover wrapped around her shoulders and was clutching her makeup bag like it was a life preserver. My mother followed. She was pulling 2 rolling bags. She had changed into a trench coat, but her hair was a mess. She looked at my father with eyes that were red and swollen. They reached the bottom of the stairs. My mother stopped. She dropped her bags and looked at me. For a second I thought she might apologize. I thought she might say, "Rose, I'm sorry I hurt you." I was wrong. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "Are you happy?" she hissed. "You destroyed this family tonight, Rose. You and your jealousy. I hope you're proud of yourself." I looked at her. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. "I didn't destroy the family, Mom," I said. My voice was raspy but steady. "I just told the truth." "Let's go," the sheriff said. He stepped forward, his hand resting on the door handle. "Time is up, ladies." "David," my mother turned to my father one last time. She reached out for his hand. "David, honey, please, it's pouring rain. Where will we go?" My father didn't take her hand. He stepped back. "You have the platinum card," he said coldly. "The Four Seasons is 20 minutes away. They have valet parking. You won't get wet for long." "You are a monster," she spat at him. "No," my father said. "I'm a father, and tonight I finally acted like one." The sheriff opened the heavy front door. The sound of the storm rushed back into the house. The wind howled. The rain was coming down in sheets, sideways and gray. Tiffany looked at the open door. She looked at the dark driveway. "It's cold," she whined. "I don't want to go out there." "Now you know how Rose felt," my father said. He didn't shove them. He didn't drag them. He just stood there and waited. Reluctantly, slowly, they walked out. Tiffany struggled with her suitcase, cursing as the wheels got stuck on the doorframe. My mother grabbed her arm and pulled her. They stepped onto the wet porch. The wind hit them immediately. I saw my mother's expensive coat whip around her legs. I saw Tiffany's hair instantly flatten against her head. They walked down the steps, heads bent against the gale, dragging their luggage through the puddles. They looked small. They looked miserable. They looked exactly like they had made me look an hour ago. The sheriff tipped his hat to my father. "I'll make sure they get off the property safely, David. Call me if they come back." "Thank you, Sheriff," my father said. The sheriff walked out and closed the door. My father locked the deadbolt. Click. Then he punched in the security code on the keypad. Beep, beep, beep. Armed. He didn't move for a long time. He stood there with his hand on the door, his forehead resting against the wood. I could see his shoulders rising and falling. He was taking deep, heavy breaths. The house was suddenly very quiet. The chaotic energy, the screaming, the accusations, the tension that had filled every corner for years was gone. It had been sucked out the door along with them. All that was left was the soft hiss of the gas fire and the distant drumming of the rain. I waited. I didn't know what to do. I had never been alone with my dad like this. Not really. My mother had always been there, hovering, translating, interfering. Finally, my father turned around. He looked 10 years older than he had this morning. His eyes were tired, deep lines etched around his mouth. He walked over to the fireplace and sat down on the coffee table, facing me. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at me. He looked at my wet hair, my pale face, the blankets wrapped around me. Then he started to cry. It wasn't a loud cry, it was silent. Tears just spilled out of his eyes and ran down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "It's okay, Dad," I said. "You came back, you saved me." "No," he shook his head. "It's not okay. I should have seen it sooner, I let it happen. I was always working, always traveling, I thought. I thought if I just provided the money, everything would be fine. I thought your mother was just strict." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I didn't know she was cruel," he said. "I didn't know she hated you." "She loves Tiffany," I said. It was the only way I could explain it. "Tiffany is like her, I'm not." "Thank God for that," my father said. He reached out and took my hand. His grip was strong. "You are nothing like them, Rose. You are kind, you are smart, and you are honest." He looked around the empty living room. "It's going to be just us for a while," he said. "Are you okay with that?" I looked around too. The house usually felt like a museum, cold, perfect, and untouchable. I was always afraid to touch things, afraid to leave a mark. But now, looking at the muddy footprints my father had made on the carpet when he ran to get me, looking at the blankets piled on the hearth, it felt different. It didn't feel like a museum anymore. It felt like a fortress. "I'm okay with that," I said. A small smile touched my lips. "I think I'm going to like it." My father took a deep breath and stood up. He unbuttoned his wet shirt cuffs and rolled up his sleeves. "Okay," he said, his voice stronger now. "First things first, you are freezing and you haven't eaten dinner." He walked toward the kitchen. "I'm going to make hot cocoa," he announced. "The real kind, with the milk and the chocolate shavings. Not the powder stuff Mom buys." I watched him go. I heard the clinking of mugs. I heard the fridge open. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't listening for footsteps in fear. I wasn't waiting for a door to slam. I wasn't planning my escape. I pulled the blanket tighter around me and leaned back against the warm stones of the fireplace. The storm was still raging outside. I could hear the wind tearing at the trees. But inside, for the first time in my life, the air was still. I was safe. My father returned from the kitchen carrying 2 steaming mugs. He handed one to me. "Careful," he said softly. "It's hot." I took a sip. It was rich, sweet, and made with real milk, just like he promised. It tasted like a memory I had almost forgotten. A memory of a time before Tiffany became the princess, and I became the servant. We sat there for a long time, watching the gas flames dance in the fireplace. The storm outside was finally starting to lose its strength. The wind was dying down. The rain was turning into a gentle drizzle. "I called the hotel," my father said, breaking the silence. "They checked in. They are safe." "Good," I said. And I meant it. I didn't want them to be hurt. I just wanted them to be gone. "I'm filing for divorce on Monday," he added. He looked into his mug. "And I'm changing the trust, this house. It's going to be different from now on." The next morning the sun came out. It was a bright, crisp Seattle morning. The air smelled clean. I walked outside to the front yard. The landscaping was a mess. There were deep tire tracks in the mud, and my mother's prize roses were flattened where the SUV had driven through them. But I didn't care about the roses. I looked at the gate. It was open. My father came out onto the porch, holding his phone. He was smiling. "I just got off the phone with the director of the STEM initiative," he said. My heart hammered in my chest. "And I explained everything," he said. "I sent them the police report number regarding the fraud. They were horrified. They reinstated your acceptance immediately, Rose. You're going to Stanford this summer." I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for years. I ran to him and hugged him. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you." The next few months were quiet. My mother and Tiffany tried to call, of course. They sent texts. They sent emails. My mother alternated between begging to come back and threatening to sue. Tiffany tried to guilt-trip me, but I didn't reply. I didn't have to. I realized then that true power isn't about screaming the loudest. It isn't about slapping people or locking them out in the cold. That's just bullying. True power is quiet. True power is knowing who you are and refusing to accept anything less than the truth. I had spent my whole life being the victim, the scapegoat, the one who broke. But that night in the storm, the part of me that was weak had frozen and fallen away. The girl who walked back into the house was different. I stood on the porch and looked at the broken garden. The flowers would grow back, the grass would be fixed. But the fear was gone for good. The storm outside had ended. And finally, the storm inside me had ended too.